Before we get into today's show, let me tell you about the latest deal from Mike Lindell, MyPillow. Once again, the big box stores have canceled their orders simply because they don't agree with Mike Lindell's politics. They don't like it because he supports President Trump. Well, he's going to pass that savings on to you. No more middleman. And boy, does he have some great deals on the Giza Dream sheets and the Percal bed sheets. Listen to this. Giza Dream queen size, normally $139.98. Your wholesale price, $69.99 when you use promo code Joey. King size, only $79.99. The Percal queen size, normally $89.98. Your wholesale price, $29.98 when you use promo code Joey. Just call 1-800-893-4059 or go to MyPillow.com. Always use promo code Joey. Free shipping options available. This allotment's not going to last very long. When they're gone, they're gone. MyPillow.com, promo code Joey. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition Studios. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. As the conflict in the Middle East heats up, a new poll finds 60% of Americans, including majority Republicans, oppose any U.S. involvement in the war with Iran. Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem was transported to a hospital in Washington, D.C. yesterday by ambulance. We have an update on her health. Could be some good news for Social Security recipients. A new analysis shows that Social Security Administration, the SSA cost of living adjustment for next year will be higher than previously projected. So if you're on Social Security, you may be getting a raise. We have another rogue federal judge. This time a federal judge is holding Florida's Attorney General in contempt of court for enforcing the state's anti-illegal immigration laws. These guys have just gone completely nuts. Blue-collar wages have surged under President Trump's second term, the biggest gains in nearly 60 years. It's another busy breaking news day. Glad to have you along for the ride.
I told you we'd be back.
And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free.
It's Joey Hudson.
I wanted to name it the Joey Hudson bill, but, they don't allow you to put names on bills, but I wanted to call it the Joey Hudson bill because I know that one's been near and dear to you for a number of years.
That's how it's done. Let your voice be heard.
And the truth shall set you free.
Here's Joey Hudson.
Israeli forces warn residents living in a portion of the Iranian capital of Tehran to evacuate ahead of an attack. The IDF wrote on X, immediate warning to employees as well as all people located in District 18 of Tehran based on the area specified on the attached map. They included the map, said in the coming hours, the Israeli army will take action in this area to attack the Iranian regime's military infrastructure, just as it has done in recent days around Tehran. If civilians stay in the area, their lives would be at risk, the IDF said. Meanwhile, Iran has prepared missiles for potential strikes against U.S. forces in the Middle East, according to reports. The New York Times reported that the Iranian military is planning possible attacks against American forces if the U.S. joins Israel as it continues to launch strikes against the Islamic Republic, citing American officials. As an example, if the U.S. strikes Fordo, a key Iranian nuclear facility, Iran-backed Houthi rebels in Yemen could attack ships in the Red Sea as they've done since October 7th, 2023, the Times of Israel reported. The U.S. has thousands of troops deployed in the region. Meanwhile, Iran has missile bases within range of some of the American forces. Senate Majority Leader John Thune, Republican from South Dakota, doesn't envision nor want the U.S. military becoming directly involved in the conflict between Israel and Iran, but that hinges on whether the Islamic Republic rejoins the negotiating table, he says. In a statement, he said, dismantling Iran's nuclear program is what it's all about. He was speaking with Fox News at the time, and that can happen one of two ways, he said. It can happen diplomatically, voluntarily, or it can happen via force. Thune's comments come as questions and concerns are circulating throughout Capitol Hill among lawmakers about whether U.S. will take a bigger, more direct role in the conflict in the Middle East. There are active conversations among senators about what role Congress should play and whether to thrust the U.S. into an armed conflict or if that power should be ceded to the president. Now, according to a new YouGov poll conducted June 13th through June 16th, a majority of Americans think that the U.S. should not get involved in Israel's war with Iran. This signals trouble for the midterms if President Trump decides to send troops into the conflict. Here's how it breaks down. 50% say they believe Iran is an enemy of the U.S., while only 1% considers Iran an ally. Still, of the 1,512 survey respondents, only 16% supports U.S. involvement in the war, with 60% opposed and 24% just not sure. The opposition to U.S. involvement includes 65% of Democrats, 61% of independents, and 53% of Republicans. Now, only 23% of Republicans and 19% of those who say they voted for President Trump say they support U.S. involvement. Meanwhile, 56% of those surveyed, including 58% of Democrats, 51% of independents, and 61% of Republicans say the U.S. should negotiate with Iran. 63% of Trump supporters said that the U.S. should negotiate instead of resorting to war. Only 18% of Trump voters say that the U.S. should not negotiate with Iran. Trump supporters tend to favor threatening sanctions of Iran, 42% of those, over threatening Iran with military force. 30% say that threats should be used. As the Gateway Pundit reported, President Trump was potentially weighing a strike on Iran during a meeting with his national security team yesterday in the Situation Room. The meeting came after Trump threatened to take out Iran's supreme leader, the Ayatollah Khomeini. Now, have you seen the excerpt of an interview with Senator Ted Cruz that Tucker Carlson is using as a promotion? I guess the full interview will air later today. Wow. This gets very confrontational as Tucker started peppering Senator Ted Cruz with questions about Iran and his potential support of attacking Iran. Senator Cruz clearly doesn't know some of the information that Tucker Carlson is asking him. Let's take a listen.
How many people live in Iran, by the way?
I don't know the population.
At all?
No, I don't know the population.
You don't know the population of the country you seek to topple?
How many people live in Iran?
92 million.
Okay. Yeah,
How could you not know that?
I don't sit around memorizing population tables.
Well, it's kind of relevant because you're calling for the overthrow of the government.
Why is it relevant whether it's 90 million or 80 million or 100 million? Why is that relevant?
Because if you don't know anything about the country...
I didn't say I don't know anything about
Okay, what's the ethnic mix of Iran?
They are Persians and
What percent?
predominantly Shia. Okay,
it's not even... You don't know anything about Iran. So
okay,
actually,
I am not the Tucker Carlson expert on Iran.
You're a senator who's calling for the overthrow of the government.
You're the one who
don't know anything about the country.
No, you don't know anything about the country. You're the one who claims they're not trying to murder Donald Trump. You're the
I'm
one
not saying that.
who can't figure out if it was a good idea to kill General Soleimani, and you said it was bad.
You don't believe they're trying to murder Trump.
Yes, I do.
Because you're not calling for military strikes against them in retaliation. And if you really believe that...
We're carrying out military strikes today.
You said Israel was.
Right, with our help. I said we. Israel is leading them, but we're supporting them.
Well, you're breaking news here because the U.S. government last night denied, the National Security Council spokesman Alex Pfeiffer denied on behalf of Trump that we were acting on Israel's behalf in any offensive capacity.
No, we're not bombing them. Israel's bombing them.
You just said we were.
We are supporting Israel.
High stakes. You're a senator. If you're saying the United States government is at war with Iran right now, people are listening.
Okay.
Wow. I'm not sure that Ted Cruz knew what he was walking into with that interview. Let me ask you, is that fair? Are those fair questions that Tucker was asking Senator Cruz? Should Senator Cruz know what the population of Iran is? Should he have some of the information that Tucker was asking him if, in fact, he potentially could vote on whether or not the U.S. Gets more involved with the Iranian conflict with Israel? Text me, email me, joe@joeyhudson.com. You can also leave me a message on the MyPillow message line, 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Always use promo code Joey when you go to MyPillow.com or call 800-893-4059. You're going to get deals like any size Giza Dream bed sheets, Queens Kings, Split Kings, Cow Kings, any size, any color, for just $49.98 when you use promo code Joey. Order now because when they're gone, they're gone. Also, for a limited time, when your order is over $100, you receive $100 in free digital gift. So if you want to get the best night's sleep ever, in addition to those My Pillows, which you can get good deals on those too, go to mypillow.com or call 800-893-4059. Always use promo code Joey. Coming up, we have an update for you on Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem, who was transported to a hospital in the D.C. area yesterday by ambulance. And good news for those of you who receive Social Security benefits. A analysis projects that Social Security cost of living adjustment next year will be much higher than anticipated. The Senior Citizens League released its estimated 2026 cost of living benefit increase, and I think you're going to like this, again, if you receive benefits from Social Security. Joey Hudson here. America is facing a health crisis, and the answer isn't more meds. I lost over 30 pounds on the PhD weight loss plan without Ozempic or any weight loss shots. Don't settle for a lifetime of medication. GLP-1 injections like Ozempic help some people lose weight, but they come with side effects, high cost, and most gain it back when they stop. At PhD Weight Loss, we reveal Big Pharma's big secret. Your body already makes GLP-1, the appetite-fighting hormone. Our program helps your body make it naturally so you'll drop the pounds faster. With the PhD method, no side effects, no long-term risk, no rebound weight gain, just natural, lasting results, all without hunger or cravings. Right now, get a free body scan and personalized metabolic assessment. Discover your body's true potential without a shot. It's free and gives you the keys to your personalized plan. Do like I did and don't trade your health for a quick fix. Call now at 864-644-1900. That's 864-644-1900 or visit myphdweightloss.com, myphdweightloss.com. By the way, before we move on from the situation in the Middle East, the Iranian state media said that the popular WhatsApp, which a lot of people use for texting on smartphones, that they're asking Iranians not to use it. In a statement, WhatsApp said it was concerned that these false reports will be an excuse for our services to be blocked at a time when people need them most. Iran yesterday urged the country's citizens to remove WhatsApp from their smartphones. I guess they are concerned that they could their whereabouts could be tracked or their communications would be monitored. The company added in their statement, "We do not track your precise location. We don't keep logs of who everyone is messaging with. We do not track the personal messages people are sending one another. We do not provide bulk information to any government." WhatsApp is owned by Meta Platforms, the parent company of Facebook and Instagram. Iran previously banned WhatsApp and Google Play in 2022 during mass protests against the government. The ban was lifted late last year, according to the Associated Press. Also, the U.S. Embassy in Jerusalem will be closed for the rest of the week. A security alert states, as a result of the current security situation and ongoing conflict between Israel and Iran, the U.S. Embassy has directed that all U.S. government employees and their family members continue to shelter in place near their residence until further notice. The closure includes the consular sections in Jerusalem and Tel Aviv. There'll be no passport or consular or report of birth abroad services either. They said, "We have no announcement about assisting private U.S. citizens to depart at this time. The Department of State is always planning for contingencies to assist with private U.S. citizens' departure from crisis areas. We will alert the U.S. citizen community if there is additional information to share regarding departure options." I mean, it would be awful to be in Israel right now and not be able to get out. I kind of know how that feels. Some years ago on one of my trips, and I've been so blessed to have traveled to Israel 5 times, was about to do number 6 in October, this coming October, and I think that's probably not going to happen now. But I got stuck myself in Israel, got a couple extra days a few years ago when on the night before Gallagher and I were to leave, we had traveled back to Jerusalem. We were going to get up early the next morning, head to Tel Aviv, and head back to the States. When I checked into the hotel that night, I could not find my passport. Now, Gallagher gives me a hard time because I said I kept it in the secret compartment in my backpack. And it was. There's a compartment in the backpack. I still have the backpack. that is inside, which means when I have the backpack on, it's against my back. So it'd be impossible for someone to swipe it, to pull it out of my backpack. Now, I had packed it up when we had left one hotel to go to the hotel that we were staying in the night before our departure. When I got there, couldn't find it. I suspect to this day that someone at the previous hotel in housekeeping took my passport, because the only time that I did not have it with me was when Gallagher and I had gone downstairs for a quick dinner the night before. And I'd taken it out of the safe, put it in my backpack, ready to depart when we made a last-minute decision to go have dinner. I left it in my backpack on my bed. That's the only time that I did not have it on my person. When I got to the hotel the next day, it was gone. Senator Tim Scott's office was able, and this was a Friday, by the way. We were leaving, coming back on Saturday morning. So I wasn't able to make the trip. Do you think Mike Gallagher waited around for me? He got on the flight and came back home. Senator Tim Scott's office got me the very first time on Monday morning appointment with the embassy's office, which they had just opened in Jerusalem. We'd been able to tour it a few days earlier, and they were able to get me a temporary. I was able to come home. It took me a couple extra days, though. I got to stay Saturday and Sunday, which I hadn't planned to do. Came back home Monday night. So anyway, I know the feeling of being stuck in a foreign country. Now, it'd be horrible to be in Israel right now with the attacks, not knowing what's going to happen. So anyway, I digress. Wow. Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem yesterday was taken to a hospital in the Washington, D.C. area by ambulance. Ms. Noem is 53. She's been the center of leftist protest over her intense crackdown on illegal immigration these past few months. Ms. Noem had an allergic reaction, we're told, and was taken for treatment out of an abundance of caution. Assistant Secretary Tricia McLaughlin said in a statement, she is alert and recovering. Secretary Noem had an allergic reaction. She was transported to the hospital out of an abundance of caution. She was reportedly conscious and had spoken to her security detail in the hospital. According to independent journalist Nick Sortor, Ms. Noem's ambulance was escorted by multiple Secret Service vehicles. So our prayers for Secretary Noem to have a full recovery, to feel better, and get back to work. We have another rogue federal judge, this time in Florida. And this judge, Judge Kathleen Williams, is holding the Florida Attorney General in contempt of court for enforcing the state's anti-illegal immigration laws. Last month, Florida Attorney General James Uthmeyer told a corrupt Obama judge that he will not order state authorities to halt enforcement of immigration law. Judge Williams, an Obama appointee, issued an injunction claiming Florida's law violates the Supremacy Clause in the Constitution in response to a lawsuit filed by the anti-American ACLU. Uthmeyer asked the state law enforcement to continue to enforce the immigration, so the judge is finding him in contempt of court. It gets crazier every day, doesn't it? Hey, if you receive Social Security benefits, you may be getting a raise. A new analysis projects that the Social Security Administration's cost of living adjustment for next year may be higher than they previously projected. The Senior Citizens League released its estimate for the 2026 adjustment based on May inflation data and projected that it will be 2.5%, up from the prior month's estimated 2.4%, and the March estimate of 2.3%. That marks the fourth consecutive month that the model shows a higher cost of living adjustment for next year. The Social Security adjusts the benefits paid to beneficiaries every year to account for the effect of inflation on consumer prices. The higher inflation, the larger the benefit increase, of course. The increase is known as the COLA for 2025 was 2.5%, which was the lowest annual increase since 2021, when an inflationary cycle began that peaked at a 40-year high in June of 2022. during the I was about to say Obama, the Biden-Harris administration before easing in years that followed. That 2.5% increase boosted the average monthly Social Security benefit by about $48. The TSCL's analyst also cited a recent report by the Wall Street Journal that found that the Bureau of Labor Statistics, which collects monthly inflation data for its Consumer Price Index, informed outside economists that a hiring freeze at the agency prompted the BLS to reduce the number of businesses where it checks consumer prices for its CPI report. Now, as a result, the agencies used a less proven method for guessing price changes more extensively than in the past, they said, which prompted economists to raise concerns about the quality of the data in recent and forthcoming inflation reports. Less accurate data, of course, could have broader implications for the economy and a lot of programs. TSCL wrote that any erosion in the CPI's reliability presents big risks to seniors' livelihood and affects future COLA and inflation predictions. The TSCL executive director, Shannon Benton, said while streamlining the federal government is a good thing, it shouldn't involve cutting back on our ability to measure how our economy is changing. Seniors should be concerned as inflation continues to tick upward, Ms. Benton said, noting that TSCL's research shows a disconnect between official inflation data and the inflation seniors experience on a daily basis as they participate in the economy. And we see that. I mean, I can see that with my mother, with Nana Hudson, because some of these inflation numbers, they just don't jive with what reality is. The fact that when you go to the grocery store, it's a lot more than some of these, the 2.5% increase or whatever that is quite often handed out. Fuel prices, rent, mortgage interest rates. There's just so many components in there. Our cost of living compared to prior to Joe Biden and prior to COVID is just outrageous. And the bad part is, folks, and I hate to be bearer of bad news, it's not going to change. It's not going down. We're never going to see prices like we saw before Joe Biden because he allowed the inflation to overwhelm our economy, and those prices are never going to go back. By the way, President Trump said yesterday that, and this has nothing to do with Social Security, but that he's likely to extend a deadline for China-based ByteDance to divest U.S. assets of the short video app known as TikTok. The president said back in early May, that he would extend the June 19th deadline after the app helped him with young voters in the 2024 election. His comments to reporters on Air Force One yesterday reiterated that sentiment. Trump said, when asked about extending the deadline, probably have to get China approval, but I think we'll get it. I think President Xi will ultimately approve it. President Trump has already twice granted a reprieve from the enforcement of a congressionally mandated ban on TikTok that was initially due to take effect back in late January, soon after he was inaugurated. The law required TikTok to stop operating by January 19th, the day before his inauguration, unless ByteDance had completed a divestiture of the app's U.S. assets. President Trump began his second term as president on January 20th and opted not to enforce it. He first extended the deadline to early April and then again last month to June 19th, which, of course, is just a couple tomorrow. Today's the 18th. A deal had been in the works this spring, we're told, that would spin off TikTok's U.S. operations into a new firm based in the U.S. and majority owned and operated by U.S. investors, but it was put on hold after China indicated it would not approve it following Trump's announcement of steep tariffs on Chinese goods. Democrat senators argue that President Trump has no legal authority to extend the deadline and suggest that the deal that had been under consideration would not meet legal requirements. So we shall see. Do you care if we have TikTok or not? A lot of people use it. A lot of people love TikTok. It's kind of like YouTube's shorts and reels on Facebook and Instagram. People get addicted to just watching these short videos over and over and over. They'll sit there for hours. And I have to say, it's kind of intriguing. I had not had a TikTok account until recently, actually, when all the fuss was created back probably last fall during the election. I created a TikTok account just so I could see what it was all about. And it's intriguing how people use TikTok. We'll see what happens there. On the text line, texter, good day, Joey. Question. I was having a civil debate with someone on Facebook, and he brought up the 1 foot law. You know, it says something like if an immigrant gets 1 foot on American soil, they can legally request asylum here and remain in the U.S. until they have a hearing. With millions here, that hearing could take quite a long time. Question, what do you think about this statement? And 2, what is a good rebuttal to this? Thanks, Joey. God bless. Dom in Illinois. Thank you, Dom. Good to hear from you. Haven't heard from you in a while. Well, yeah, the 1 foot law it's not actually a law, but it is something that has been used, that has been recognized as sort of a common practice for a while. Now, President Trump and the Trump administration has a very hostile view toward the so-called 1 foot law. And Trump's immigration agencies, particularly Homeland Security and ICE, they have really taken a hard-nosed stance and reduced the use of discretion in allowing people to adjust their status. In other words, in the past, if you had certain criteria, maybe you had you were here illegally or you'd overstayed your visa, but you had other family members here legally, then you could quite often, due to the 1 foot law, you could get some leniency, some flexibility. The Trump administration has really, though, they've implemented more of a strict public charge rule that has disqualified many applicants from adjusting their status, particularly if they have had other criminal activity. And those prior arrests, prior criminal activity, pretty much get you a fast and furious one-way ticket back home. The Trump administration has pursued cases even against those with a legal pathway to a green card, essentially ignoring the spirit of the 1 foot law. Because, let's face it, people have abused the 1 foot law. They have abused the use of it. Programs like the TPS, DACA, and asylum, which often allow people to stay in the U.S., and potentially adjust their status. And again, when I speak of adjusting their status, meaning they get a delay, they get to stay here longer. The Trump administration have targeted these some of this population, and they've removed legal footholds for many immigrants who might have otherwise had that so-called 1 foot in the U.S. immigration system. The bottom line is the Trump administration does not respect or support the practical application of the so-called 1 foot law. It saw it as a loophole that has let undocumented immigrants game the system and they've worked to shut it down through rule changes, denials, and enforcement. And you know, they're right. It has been used as a loophole, and it shouldn't be allowed. I mean, if you come into our country illegally, and just because you have that 1 foot on American soil doesn't mean that you can break our law and get to stay here just because you got into the country to begin with. Does that make sense? Appreciate the question, Dom. And hey, I'd love to get your feedback. What do you think about the so-called 1 foot rule? Text me. Email me, joe@joeyhudson.com. Your comments are welcome on the Firmin Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. That's 864-477-5639. Emails always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com. Speaking of the Firmin Ford text line, you know, it's never been more important to support locally run businesses owned by people who actually live here in the upstate. Let me take a minute to talk with you about our friends at Firmin Ford. If you're looking for a new vehicle, maybe a great pre-owned vehicle, one you can trust, or maybe you're looking to order that special vehicle. Either way, if you want a new one, a brand new one, or a pre-owned that you can trust, the folks at Firmin Ford, they're there to help you. Their name is on the sign because their name is on the line, because every single transaction is important to them. Jim Firmin, Matthew Firmin. They do business the right way. When you stop by, when you give them a call, or maybe when you just send them a quick email, you're always going to have access to a member of the Firmin Ford family. And by the way, they also offer great service, and you're not going to have to wait weeks and weeks to get it done. And you do not have had to purchase your vehicle at Firmin Ford. Doesn't even have to be a Ford. They service all makes and models. Visit my friends at Firmin Ford online at firminford.com, firminford.com. Wow, it's quite amazing as we're getting new data on blue-collar wages as they have surged under President Trump's second term. It's the biggest gain in nearly 60 years. Blue-collar Americans, the backbone of our nation's workforce, are finally seeing their paychecks rise again. In the first 5 months of President Trump's second term, real wages for hourly non-supervisory workers have grown an impressive 1.7%, according to new data released by the U.S. Department of Treasury. This figure marks the strongest early-term wage growth, again, for blue-collar workers under any president in nearly 6 decades. And it stands in stark contrast to the stagnant or negative growth seen under previous administrations, particularly Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent called it a historic trend on the latest episode of Pod Force One with columnist Miranda Devine.
And you've got some other good news, haven't you, about blue-collar wage growth?
Blue-collar wage growth, the only other time it's been this high, wait for it, was during President Trump's first term. So we've seen real wages for hourly workers, non-supervisory workers, rise almost 2% in the first 5 months.
Why is that?
No president has done that before.
And why is that?
It's the president's emphasis on manufacturing. I think there's also likely a component of whether it's 12 or 20 million illegal aliens coming out of the workforce. And Joe Biden opened the border and it was flooded. And that for working Americans, that's a disaster because it's pressure on their wages.
Now, let's have a little context here. Under Joe Biden, blue-collar workers, and he supposedly was the blue-collar president, remember? But blue-collar workers actually saw their real wages decline by 1.7% during the same time frame as his presidency, as runaway inflation devoured nominal pay raises. By comparison, President Trump's current term has seen wages not only keep pace with inflation, but outpace inflation. This is a rare occurrence in modern economic history. Now, I know some people may be thinking, well, it sure doesn't feel like it. But think about if you hadn't had these wage increases, just how bad it would be. Economists, White House officials, they credit the wage surge to a combination of factors. Falling inflation, and we have seen inflation decline, renewed investment in American manufacturing, and aggressive efforts to restore labor market balance by removing illegal workers from the job pool. Bingo. So you have some of these illegals being escorted out of the country, opens up jobs for Americans. I know it's a wild concept. Joe Biden didn't seem to understand it. Donald Trump does. Secretary Bessent did not mince words about one of the administration's driving philosophies. He said Biden opened the border and it was flooded. And for working Americans, that's a disaster because it's pressure on their wages. And he's right. So by enforcing immigration law and reducing the number of undocumented workers competing for jobs, President Trump's team argues that they've restored upward pressure on wages, particularly in sectors like construction, transportation, warehousing, hospitality, where employers had previously relied on lower-cost, undocumented labor. Immigration policy, though, is only part of the picture. Secretary Bessent pointed to the president's America First economic revival, which centers on domestic manufacturing, energy independence, and the resurrection of industrial towns that have been hollowed out by decades of offshoring, sending those jobs to other countries, having those products manufactured in China or Mexico or wherever. The administration's One Big Beautiful Bill, this sweeping budget reconciliation package that we're watching closely in the U.S. Senate, is expected to pass later this month, probably. But it's set to reinforce these gains that we've seen even further. So what's in the bill for blue-collar America? Let me just, I did a little quick research. Trump's economic team, they've crafted this bill, and they have been laser-focused on relief for hourly workers and revival of American industry. Some of the key provisions: elimination of federal income taxes on overtime pay for over 80 million hourly workers. This includes those in construction, healthcare, manufacturing, and emergency response. That could be big. The no tax on tips policy. This directly targets millions of service industry workers. This is a campaign promise that President Trump frequently talked about in his many rallies as he crisscrossed the country last year. And the massive tax incentives for companies to build factories in the U.S. These incentives are aimed at creating an estimated 6 million new jobs, high-paying, good hourly jobs over the next 5 years. And, we've heard so much talk about the tariffs, but we've also seen a renewed interest by manufacturers rather than try to swim upstream and resist. They're just bringing those jobs back here. They're investing massive amounts of money in new manufacturing facilities here in the U.S., which means they're going to have Americans, real Americans, legal Americans, American citizens at those jobs. Also, new apprenticeships and trade training subsidies. These are designed to strengthen the pipeline of skilled labor without pushing college degrees as the default. For decades now, it's the definition of success has been go to college, get a degree. It doesn't always lead to financial success, though. So rather than just automatically pushing kids to go to college to get a 4-year degree, we send them to a trade school. We encourage them to go to a trade school where they can learn to be plumbers, electricians, very good paying jobs. So you put all this together, and the policies represent a pretty major pivot towards what Trump advisors are calling a wage-first recovery, a reversal of decade-long trends where productivity gains and corporate profits outpaced worker compensation. They built these businesses on the backs of blue-collar workers. Secretary Bessent said wages are finally moving in the right direction. This administration is proving that when you put American workers first, the economy follows. And we're seeing that, right? Now, this is a stark contrast to Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. If you look at a historical wage data chart, you see Joe Biden, 2021, minus 1.7%. Barack Obama, minus 0.3%. George W. Bush, even, minus 0.6%. This is historic. But Donald Trump said he could do this. We elected him based on his promise to do this. The only other presidency to come close to current gains was Richard Nixon. And even then, his first 5 months saw only 0.8% increase. Of course, the difference here is, inflation. Trump's team has been able to manage and to stabilize prices. Yes, they haven't all come down yet. And as I said earlier, I'm afraid they may not all. But still, by stimulating growth in industries that has disproportionately employed hourly blue-collar laborers, this is, again, the construction, the energy industry, the president has been able to get those jobs back at a better paying a better salary. That's it for today's edition of Just the Truth. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss Studios. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. If you haven't joined my mailing list yet, visit my website, joeyhudson.com. Click on the Connect with Joey button so that you can receive our emails and the most up-to-date news. Also, join me on my YouTube channel. Be sure and like, comment, and subscribe. Just search for Joey Hudson. As always, thanks for spending a few minutes of your day with me. Do me a favor and forward this episode to a few friends. Just click on the share button and send to your contacts. We need to build an army of conservatives to win our country back, and we can do that by continuing to share the truth with our friends and family. Keep those comments coming via the Firmin Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. Email to joey@joeyhudson.com, and I love your messages on the MyPillow message line. Again, that's 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Be sure and take advantage of the MyPillow special, just $14.88 on the standard MyPillows when you use promo code Joey. Order online at mypillow.com or call 800-893-4053. We're back again tomorrow and hope you'll plan to join us. Until then, remember, God's got this. He's still in control.